Have you ever wished your ink smushing backgrounds looked like those fancy spray backgrounds? Spoiler alert, it definitely can. I'm going to be putting the new Simon Hurley Stellar inks to the test. Can they really mimic that classic spray look with just smushing? Well, let's find out together. Now, this is a longer video, but stick with me throughout the whole thing because I'm going to be sharing tips and tricks along the way. Let's get into it. Now, doing the smushing technique, it's pretty simple, but I do need to mention that using the right paper is going to be key for success here. You need to make sure that you're using a good mixed media paper or watercolor paper. I personally love to use Strathmore mixed media paper. We are going to be putting a lot of layers and water on our paper, so we need to make sure that we have a paper that can hold all of that. So we are going to need a piece of plastic. I'm just using some packaging that I got in the mail. I just cut it up and we are going to be reusing it. And I'm going to be using the lightest color first, which in this case is from the new Simon Hurley release. It's going to be High Tide. So I just smushed a little bit on the plastic and I'm going to be adding a little bit of water with my spray bottle. And then we are just going to smush this around our paper. I'm not going for full coverage at first. I want to make sure that I get a good blend of colors going on. So I'm just going to lightly tap it here and there. And then we are going to clean off the plastic so that we can move on to the next color. I don't want any contamination going on with my ink pads. And then I'm going to go in with Clear Skies. This is a beautiful blue color. And again, I'm going to smush it on the plastic and add a little bit of water. Then I'm just going to smush this on my glass mat first, just to make sure that I'm, getting a good variation of color on my background. And I am going randomly, not smushing the whole thing down again, just kind of going in places where I feel like I want some more of that blue color, smushing it down, spreading it out with my fingers. This is really fun to do and very simple. Once I'm done with the Clear Skies, I'm going to clean off my plastic sheet and then move on to the darker color, which is going to be Midnight Snack. I love that color name. Speaking of midnight snacks, I would love to know if you have a favorite that is just your guilty pleasure late at night when you're just craving that something something. Let us know in the comments down below. Now I am going to add quite a bit of water to this midnight snack because it is very dark. And again, I am just smushing here and there, not adding a ton because it will overpower all of the lighter colors and I don't want that. I want some of that, the other colors to show through, of course. Then I'm going to clean this off, of course. And then while all of that color is still a little bit wet, I'm going to smush down the clean plastic wrap just to kind of help it blend out and smush out a little bit more. And then we're going to clean up a little bit and then we are going to dry this in place. And I'm actually going to be taking out my cooling rack. I love this thing when I am drying my backgrounds, whether it's sprays or anything like this. It really helps the air flow through the paper versus, having to hold it or anything like that. It really helps the process of drying. You can find a link to these cooling racks down below if you are looking for one. All right, so you could see that our background, it's looking pretty okay. However, I do want more saturation in color. And so to me, this is kind of looking a little sad. So we're going to actually add more layers of color. Again, starting with our lightest color first. So we want to make sure that we clean our plastic sheet. And we're going to go in with High Tide. And then we're just going to smush that down in some of those areas that I feel like it needs it. And then this might need a little bit more water up there. Okay, and then same thing, we're just going to smush that down. Perfect. Okay, and then we're going to go in with the Clear Skies. Spritz with a little bit of water. And again, go in any areas that you feel need some more love. You can layer the colors on top of each other. It will give a really unique look. Okay, then we're going to go in with the darkest color again, which is going to be Midnight Snack. And for this one, I'm actually going to try to get on those same areas that we did before, just to darken those areas up. I'm not going to try and get in any other areas because I still need to make, there still need to be room for the purple color. And I'll show you why, and you'll understand why I'm doing the purple color last. It's because it is the darkest color and it will overpower everything else that we have going on. So I'm just trying to get in those areas that I already did with the blue. Doesn't have to be perfect, right? And I can go in other places too, but just want to darken those areas up. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some water splotches because that's how we're going to get a lot of interest on our background. Okay. And then we're just going to dry this again. So I'm going to bring back in my cooling rack and then just dry this in place. Okay, then we're going to add some more water in some of those areas that I feel like it needs to be broken up a little bit. All right, so now we're going to pick up some of those water splotches with a paper towel. This is going to give you a lot of interest, as you can see. Okay. Then we're just going to dry this in place. All right, so now it's time for purple. We are going to be using 100% juice. Is that the color? Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. Then we're gonna just spritz this with a little bit of water. And then I'm gonna kind of let that blend out a little bit, and I feel like it needs a little bit more water here and there. Not too much because I really want a saturated look with this. So I'm gonna go in and very carefully pick and choose where I want this purple because I don't want it to overpower all of the blue. So I'm going to go over pretty much like the dark blue and then kind of blend that out a little bit, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go there. I'm pretty strategic when it comes to ink smushing because it can get to be a lot real fast, right? So I'm going to go in with some water now to kind of break that up a little bit in some areas. There we go. I'm going to water splotch that. And I think I want this to be blended together. So let me see if I can get that. There we go. Okay, we're going to bring back in the cooling rack and then dry this now. All right, and with that purple that's still on there, I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of water, and then I'm going to go back in some of those areas where I want it to be a little more saturated in color. Okay. And then I'm going to go in with some water to kind of break up some of those areas. And then this is where we're going to see if we need another layer of color. Okay, we may need another layer, but we'll see. I'm going to pick up some of that. I may add a little bit more blues. So we're going to clean this off. And I'm going to go in with High Tide. Spritz that. And just go in and kind of darken up that High Tide color there in some of those areas. Perfect. And we're going to dry this. This goes pretty fast once you get going. But there is a lot of layers, right? Because you want to make sure that you're getting a lot of depth in your background. Okay, and then we're going to go in with some of the clear skies. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to crinkle it, so that way it kind of gets everywhere. Kind of breaks up that color a little bit. There we go. And then I can kind of layer that here and there. Perfect. Now we're going to dry this. And I am going to go in with a little bit more purple, just so that I can get a little more depth in these little purple areas here. And okay, then we're going to go in with some more water, because now we have more ink on our background. We can get a lot more depth in it. I'm going to pick up some of that water with our paper towel. Now we're going to dry this. All right, some more water. Every single layer you add helps with all of that interest and depth in the background. Okay, isn't that looking so pretty? All right, I think one more round of water and then we should be good to go. And how I tell when I'm ready to stop is if I like my background or my project at least 80% of the way, because it's impossible to like everything you do 100% of the way every single time. So when I'm like, oh yeah, this looks really great, but maybe I don't really like this little edge here, I can cut that off, right? So I'm liking pretty much everything that's going on here except really that edge there. And again, I can cut that off. Or rough up the edge or whatever I want to do. There is a little bit more purple than I had wanted, but nothing I can do about it now. So we're just going to roll with it. To keep with the Simon Hurley theme, I'm going to use one of his stamps. This is one of my favorites, actually. I love scripty stamps, and I'm actually going to stamp this out in a lighter color blue, or this High Tide. And I'm just going to ink that up, because I just want a little bit more something in that background. Okay, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm just going to kind of curve the stamp and then place my fingers in a few different areas on the stamp. I don't want a perfect impression. It's not what I'm going for here. Let's see. You can kind of see, maybe if the camera will pick it up here and there. Don't know if that will pick up, but I'm gonna do, instead of that color, I think I'm gonna do the next color, which was Clear Skies, because you can't really see that one. So let's try Clear Skies instead. Okay, and we're just gonna stamp that down. That's a little bit better. You can see that a little bit more. Perfect. And you know what? What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do some ink blending on top of this as well. All right, I'm going to use this one from Tim Holtz, and I'm going to try to stick with the same colors. All right, I'm going to bring in my grip mat to hold this in place-ish. And then I'm going to bring in the stencil. And then that just helps. And then I like to actually use the magnets are pretty strong, so I'm just gonna hold that in place just a little bit more. And let's get that a little bit better here. It's not that straight. I'm just going to go over the same colors, try to anyways, and I'm lightly adding the ink blending tool to the ink pad. You can see that it's picking it up very lightly, which is what I want. Okay, then I'm just going to go over those same colors, just very lightly, maybe down a little bit. All right, let's see what we got here. Let me see. There we go. So you could see very lightly there. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Mainly over the purple color, and then but then lightly over that blue, just to give a little more interest on there. Barely see it, but that's exactly what I wanted. So I really like these blending tools, to be completely honest. They're very nice to hold in your hand. All right, so we're going to set that aside, and we're going to do a little bit more water just because we added ink. So I just kind of want to break that up just a little bit more. Perfect. Now we're going to dry this for the last time. All right, and there is our background with just inks and some smooshing. We did, of course, add a little bit of stamping and a little bit of stenciling, but the main focus is the background and how beautiful it looks, even when you just have inks. So if you love the look of distress sprays, or anything like that, or using sprays and you don't want to invest in them because you may not use them as often or you're not sure, this is definitely a great way to get a similar look. All right, I am going to finish this card off pretty simple. I have actually already cut these out during my craft room reset. So what I like to do is I take a day or two a month and I die cut out my most favorite and most used die cuts. That way I have them on hand and I don't need to break that creative process when I'm in the zone and kind of creating, right? So I already have these on hand and I'm going to just place them like this. And I'm actually going to, you know what? I think I want to actually spray or use spray adhesive to adhere these down. And then let's see if I can get that perfect. And then I'm just going to place a really simple sentiment just like that. Pretty simple. Okay, so I'm going to spray these off camera into my garbage can because the spray adhesive is really gross smelling. And then we will finish off the card. All right, so I'm going to place this one about like that. Okay, and then I'm going to place this one. Actually should have left that up a little bit because I want to place this one a little bit behind that other one. And then just like that. This is really sticky. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Now I am going to cut off the excess. that. And then we're going to place this right there. But first I'm going to rough up the edges of this card just because it needs a little something. All right, I'm going to use my edge distresser. You can use scissors if that's what you have. And all you need to do is take your scissors, open them up like this, and then just swipe them across like this. Just like that. It just gives more interest to the card. All right, I'm just going to use a little tape runner for this. Nothing crazy. It's simple. And then before I add my sentiment, you know I got to go in with some white splatters. And my new favorite for white splatters is actually this Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof. A follower had sent this to me and I absolutely love it. It's going to take a little paintbrush and stick a little bit there. All right, you want to use a little bit of water to make sure that you get that splatter consistency. Mix that all together. And then we're just going to add some white splatters here. Perfect. I always say perfect and then I go in and add like 1,000 more splatters. All right. Just gonna place this sentiment right here. This is a chipboard sentiment, so it's already like popped up a little bit and has some dimension to it. So I don't really need to do anything else to it. So that is the card, just using inks. If you don't have ink pads and you're new to card making, I would definitely give these a try if they are in your budget. I really liked using them. The colors are beautiful. They react to the water beautifully, and it created a stunning background. All right, so that is today's video. I want to thank you all for stopping by and spending time with me. I hope this video was helpful. If you are new to my YouTube channel, I would love for you to subscribe and join the community. Leave a comment down below what your favorite color is, and until next time, stay creative, my friends.